Welcome to DuPont REGISTRY Talks, a new podcast from the home of driving luxury since 1985.
Hello everyone and welcome to this episode of DuPont REGISTRY Talks. I'm your host Charles Bradley, and joining me today are two eminent guests from our wonderful world of luxury lifestyle. Today, I'm speaking with father and son car collectors Neil and Sterling Fairman about their amazing collection of Ferraris and their combined passion for automotive excellence and racing, and the amazing journey they've enjoyed together curating these fantastic cars. So Sterling, tell us a little bit about yourself and your amazing collection.
So I was born and raised in Miami Beach, raised in a motorsport family. My father raced in the Challenge for about 15 years. Growing up, I was going to the track, helping change tires, clean the rubber out of the wheels, that kind of stuff. Really fell in love with the sport, and that really created this passion for cars. Mainly through racing, but over time, now that I don't do as much racing, the street cars and stuff really interests me.
Because you did some really sort of high-level karting and other stuff as well?
From the ages 8 to 16, I'd say, I was running karting every weekend, doing national championships, really enjoyed that. It was kind of a motivator that my father gave me, and it was like, look, you do well in school, you can go karting. And then eventually, now that's why I work so hard, is because I'd like to, race professionally one day and do Daytona, Le Mans, that kind of stuff.
My bond with my son was, he was a little boy and used to be in the pits helping the mechanics clean the wheels when they take them off after the race when he was 4, 5, 6 years old. And loved it, and and I also raced in the historic Ferrari challenge. So we raced a BBLM there. So he used to come and help us, always cleaning the car and doing what he needed to do in between running sessions. And then I started him off go-karting, and he started at a very young age, was quite talented, and he actually won the Homestead yearly championship 2 years in a row in seniors. So he's a very good driver. And going to the go-kart track with him every weekend, and I mean every weekend, and traveling to go to the different go-karting things really bonded us and gave us a special relationship that we still enjoy.
What's been the most memorable event or maybe race that you've done together?
Well, we raced at Homestead and together in a GT race. That was a lot of fun, and it was a great experience being father and son, being in the car and switching over together.
I would say we did a race together, which was the Miami 500. It was an amazing father-son experience. We finished first. And then we did a Monza rally, which was really amazing together in Pebble Beach for Car Week.
And what was it like to share a car? Who was faster?
He's faster today, by quite a bit.
Talking about the car collection, was there a kind of spark car that set your collecting journey in motion?
We actually have that car still. It's a Ferrari F430. It's like the first car that I do remember, my dad driving quickly with me in it and really enjoyed it. But I'd say the 458 Speciale is what really started our collection. And when my father got offered it, he was like, should we take this thing? I was like, yes, we should. And then after that, we started getting offered other cars, and we realized, wow, maybe we'll start a collection.
In 1986, I was in the south of France, and actually I think it was the summer of '85, saw 3 Testarossas, and I'd never seen one before, Ferrari Testarossas. And there was a red one, a white one, and a black one parked in front of this nightclub in Cannes, and I was smitten. And I asked a friend of mine if he could get me a white one. And he had some contacts with Ferrari and found out that there were 2 or 3 of them that were made, and phoned the 3 dealers, and one of them was in Saudi Arabia, Al Ajda Motors in Saudi Arabia, and they had a white one, and it was a young gentleman who was off to Boston to go to school. His family owned the dealership. He may have been part of the important family in Saudi Arabia. And I shipped the car from Saudi Arabia to Montreal. Actually, we had to ship it to Paris. And then from Paris, we had to truck it to Amsterdam because Air France didn't have a big enough cargo door for the car, so we had to put it on KLM to get it to Montreal.
How do your tastes in cars differ and where do they overlap?
My father's very purist, naturally aspirated. All of the cars in our collection right now are naturally aspirated. I like the turbo stuff. I like the, little rowdy stuff. My dad likes stuff that's kind of more hooked up and, gets traction. I like the stuff that's wild and, very emotional to drive.
He's starting off similar to me with the Porsches. I started off with that 911 and then a bunch of turbos, and probably had a turbo every second year as they were coming out. In fact, they were legal in Canada when they weren't in the United States at one time. So we had the benefit of having turbos in 1980 and 82 where you didn't get them in the States.
Personally, I'm actually a Porsche guy. So I've got a GT3 RS coming, and I've had many Porsches in the past. So definitely the Porsches. We did have a GT2 RS in the past. I loved it. My father couldn't stand it. It just didn't have any emotion to it. It didn't have any sound. But I thought that car was amazing. It was incredibly hooked up. So for me, it's more the cars that are more race car-like. And then for my dad, it's more streetable. And he's like, why would we want this if we can have a car that we race on track that's uncomfortable? And, I don't need to be driving this daily. So for me, I'm happy to drive, the most uncomfortable car every day of my life if I can.
So sometimes you buy them together, sometimes you have your personal preference.
So I just bought a GT3 RS, my first 911. I've had Caymans in the past, and so I'm doing European delivery in June, and that'll be my first big supercar for myself, completely on my own.
Sterling and I, we're both very aspirational. It's more about what we'd like to have and can't get than it is what we disagree upon.
Do you actually buy the cars together?
Yes, we always go to, well, most of my cars are bought new. So we go to Ferrari together or to the New York showroom and spec the cars together. And we've done it at Pebble Beach also. The Competizione was done at Pebble Beach.
So are you preservationists or are you drivers?
A little bit of both. Depends on the car. If the car we really enjoy driving, we'll drive it. If it's a car that isn't as great, for example, my father, he doesn't love the TDF. It's very, very raw. So he doesn't really get that much use out of it. But when I use it, I'll beat it up a little bit. Yeah.
I drove more when I was younger. Sterling still drives quite a bit, and Sterling races. I raced in the Challenge Series in the 355s, the 360s, the 430s, and then we moved up to the GT3 car. Sterling still races and started racing very young. He started off in karting. I started racing at Mont Tremblant. My first race was in the Honda Series, and it was just a wild free-for-all with 40-something cars running at the same time, and just was a lot of fun. We had great times in those days.
How important is the car collector community to your father-son bond?
In all honesty, the community isn't that big of a player in our bond. Mm-hmm. I definitely am in the community, and I have so many great friends and so many great connections that I made from it. But as father and son, we like to kind of do things on our own. So it's whether going on a Sunday drive together, going to the track together. I don't know, the community, my father's a little bit older, so he doesn't really enjoy that community as much anymore.
Are there events you go to that are like a tradition? You do it every year?
Yeah, personally, I go to the Pebble Beach every year. I've done it a couple times with him. First time I was 8 years old. I did it again when when I was 19. We took delivery of our Pista there. But we try to do a lot of track days together, and the Mille Miglia is definitely something we'd like to do together. So yeah, hopefully in the future we'll do some more stuff like that.
Well, we go to the Formula One in Montreal usually every year because I've been going to it since it started, basically. I went to the first one that was at Mont Tremblant. I went to one that was in Toronto what's the name of the track? Can't think of it now. Mossport. And then, the ones in Miami since they've opened, in Vegas. So we do a lot of the Grand Prix, and I have a good friend that's in the Formula One milieu, so we spend a lot of time in the paddock. We're very fortunate.
What's your favorite car in the collection and why?
I'm a big fan of the 458 Speciale Aperta. It's the first car in our collection that we ended up keeping. And I'd say it's naturally aspirated, great center of gravity. The car is just fantastic. It's not overpowered. It's very easy to drive, but it's also a lot of fun to play with.
I think my favorite car of all time is this SP3. It's just such a phenomenal driving car. It's naturally aspirated. It doesn't have the auxiliary power, which I like the fact that it's just a plain V12. And it's the P3, P4 were, monumental. I had a good friend of mine who had one of them and drove the car. It's a phenomenal, I won't call it a reproduction, but a recreation of that car, and it was my favorite, and now the SP3 is my favorite.
Is there a grail car that you're hunting that you'd like to own one day?
Grail car for me, I'd love to own a Carrera GT. My father's not the biggest fan of it, but definitely something I'd love to own one day, 6-speed manual, V10.
Yeah.
I would love an Art Spider, if I could find an Art Spider or a California Spider, just for a Sunday drive.
Do you see this as a family legacy that you're building for future generations?
I'd like to think so. I'd love to see, one day my future children driving these cars, and I think that's the thought for my father as well.
Yes, I think Sterling will end up with he's part of the collection. He's the one who curates it with me. He's the one who takes care of all the cars, and he's actually more involved with the collection than I am today.
And how do you want your collection to evolve over, let's say, the next decade?
I'd like to narrow down to like the very, very special cars. Some of these cars don't get driven as much. They just don't have like a reason for me to be like, oh wow, this I need to drive today. But there are certain cars that, they tick the boxes. So I don't know, some of these new Ferrari hypercars and stuff like that, definitely interesting. But I kind of want to go back in time and pick up some of my childhood, grail cars like, old Mercy, 6-speed, that kind of stuff. 430 gated manual, stuff that's fun that we'll never get again.
We'd like to continue collecting, and hopefully the cars that we see today aren't going to be moved aside for more of the electric cars and EV cars. I'm hoping that some manufacturers maintain tradition.
So the automotive passion that passes between generations, how important is that for the future of car collecting in general?
I think it's very important. At least for me, the racing was like instilled in me from a young age. So there's different types of car people, I'd say. There's collectors, and then there's people who just enjoy cars. And for me, I think it's teaching the future generations about the history of these cars and why they were so significant for their time. So these cars that I had on my bedroom wall, it's the same kind of thing. It's putting those things in front of your children and being able to show them like these incredible creations that were made during their era, let's say. And that's like where my passion is. It's like 2008 to 2018 cars. Those cars are all cars that I dreamed of having, and that they were on my bedroom wall and that I had toys of. So that's really where it starts, in my opinion.
And finally, what advice would you give to other families who may be starting their own collecting journey?
Definitely make it a family activity. Stay close with your family through it, go track days, car events. I don't know, for me it's huge because anytime I sit down with my father, we could talk for days upon days about cars, and that's just like a huge connection right there. And we truly love it. So it's definitely a bond that we have.
I think that it's important that you find something that you really like, and not try to buy something that you think other people will like. And if you have a son or a daughter that's interested in it, if you can bring them into it, it's a lovely way for you to share time, to rally together, to go on trips together, and to enjoy it, and meet other families that do the same, and go to different races together, and parking in the infield at Daytona and watching the race together is an experience, or Le Mans. So that's what I would suggest.
Neil, thanks for your time today, and thanks for inviting us here to look at your fabulous cars.
It's a pleasure.
Well, it's great to take time out with Sterling and Neil to see their fantastic car collection. That's all we've got time for today. Join us next time on DuPont Registry Talks, and remember, drive safely.